I'm Dr. Jett, and I've had a passion for public health for over 30 years. Now I'm in a position to effect change, and these are the critical conversations about health and our community, with people who can help me make those changes. Good morning. Welcome to CEO Live Talks. I'm your host, Dr. Jett, CEO for Park DuValle, and with me today I have Ms. Lopez. You know, the interesting thing about the protest, a lot of people was trying to say the protests were destructive. Um, I did notice when I was in Boston, um, there were some outside agitators. I marched in a protest that came to Brookline, Massachusetts. So did you ever notice any outside agitators?
Right, we did, and we had a system set up. So on the same protest, we ended up at 4th Street Live. There was a gentleman back there who was an agitator who we quickly realized did not belong in our space, and that he was attempting to agitate and turn things into a negative light. So what our system was myself and 3 other individuals. We were tasked with going to stand and surround that individual to keep him from interacting with the individuals in our protest who were there to do what we came to do. So what we did was we made sure that even if he was yelling obscenities, even if he was trying to engage the protesters to get them to join in with him to direct anger or maybe cause chaos with the mounted police officers, we made sure that our protesters did not engage with them. So we kind of had a system set up.
What about the people that used the opportunity to loot?
So,
because I know that's a difficult system to stop.
So again, our protests that we set up were probably 2014 to 2016. So we really didn't have the same type of anger that was present with the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor protests. And that was because back when we were we didn't have that type of support. We didn't we were in the early stages of we're going to get out there, and everybody thought it was just an inconvenience. So then when George Floyd and Breonna Taylor protests began to happen, it was more, there were more individuals who were tuned in to protest, what the protests were, and supportive of it. So my experience as an organizer was a little different between 2014 and 2016 than what happened in 2020 and forward.
Where do you see us going from here? I mean, you've been in the trenches. I've been in the trenches, and a lot of people, you're making change now externally from the system to bring change internally. Where do we go from here? What do you want to see the West End?
One, again, the resources. What I don't want to see is individuals come in and bring a system for West End residents to get accustomed to, used on, rely on, and then all of a sudden funds dry up and that system or that resource is no longer there. So sustainable resources for individuals in the West End, particularly working with organizations who are already established. So not coming in to be the savior, thinking you have the answer for everything that's going on without talking to the people in the community to find out exactly what it is they need. That those are going to be the key to figuring out how to establish those systems within the West End so that people can self-realize, self-actualize.
I tell you what I want. I want safe community. I want all the parks redone. I want all the roads repaved. I want affordable housing.
Yes.
Right? I need the landscape to change. I need more trees to reduce heat islands and air pollution. I need somebody to deal with the air pollution.
Right.
In Rubbertown and on parts of the West End. I need a study to occur. I need some grocery stores.
Absolutely, food desert.
Because we're in a food desert, and I'm tired of going to only one Kroger. Right? So
And
That has to change.
that's another problem. During those protests, when Breonna Taylor and George Floyd thing happened, we had that one grocery store in the West End that ended up closing. So, you know, our elders and other individuals who rely on that store for their pharmacy needs and their medications couldn't get it because Kroger just closed. So that's a problem.
We right across from Park DuValle, we had a grocery store that attempted to be a grocery store. I wouldn't even call it a grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
It had dilapidated food, old crud. It didn't even have a working refrigerator, freezer.
As soon as you walk in there, you can smell that.
You can smell it. So we need some economic capital into the West End instead of us treating the symptoms, which that's all we're treating is we're treating obesity, diabetes. We're treating poor health outcomes. We're not putting the systems in place for people to live healthy.
Right.
Breathe healthy. So I'm talking about a total reconfiguration of the West End. I need the black on black crime to stop. I need us to go, because it's not in our nature, even from Africa, to kill one another like that. So I need that to stop. I need the police brutality against black people to stop. Which brings me to the incident that occurred in Memphis recently. And to me, it's almost, I don't even know how to put it in context as to why the black officers now would kill a black man.
Again, when we talked about it a little earlier, and I mentioned the culture of law enforcement.
Right.
We all know, well, most of us know where law enforcement started. When you see that starred badge, the slave patrols, and how that morphed into what's now known today as law enforcement around the United States. And that culture is still there. Black cops are not able to go into that culture and say, hey, we're not going to fully invest ourselves into the culture. They may go in with good intentions, and once they get there, that culture then takes over. So while they are black police officers, they're still working in a system that upholds those oppressive and systemically racist ideologies that were there from the founding of law enforcement. Right. So I don't think that skin color has anything to do with whether or not they are working to uphold the oppressiveness of police culture. It is just, that's what's going to happen. It would have to be a completely separate system of responsiveness to crimes, to mental health problems that would have to occur aside from law enforcement in order to actually deplatform that culture.
So what you just described to me, I can't help but to reflect back on part of a clip from Django when Samuel Jackson talked as if he was the oppressor,
right,
in nature. And unfortunately, I think by witnessing violence, police officers are desensitized to the value of life as well.
Yes.
But there lies another issue in the fact that we're not hiring police officers from the community that are invested in the community and know the community,
right,
and do true community policing. I have a friend, Chief Cecil Smith, down in Sanford, Florida. When he became the police chief, he understood the dynamic of we need to police the community and be involved.
Right.
Be a friend of the community instead of an antagonist to the community.
Right.
And I think that would have a different connotation.
We did have those discussions before with Chief Steve Conrad and the mayor of remembering back when, heard my grandmother, like, everybody knew that there was a police officer in this area named Hiawatha, and if Hiawatha was coming to get you, they know they could tell Hiawatha, like, hey, somebody's bothering me, Hiawatha's going to go and handle whatever the situation is. But Hiawatha was known in the community. Or having those police officers that literally used to walk the beat. These cops don't even get out of their cars.
Right.
If they do, it's for a photo op. It's okay, let me shoot the ball 2 times with these kids, and hopefully somebody gets that on camera and they send send that in and they play that clip on the news, or, oh, these kids are out playing football in the street. Let's try to. I don't like propaganda. So like if we're gonna do this thing, you need to be fully invested in. Exactly. So it's not just we see kids playing in the street, so let's shoot a basketball. It's you saw an elderly lady walking with groceries. Did you help her take them in the house? Because no, they're not going to get out of their cars to do that. Again, it's not in the culture of policing. It used to be, because at the time, if you think about it, black cops used to police black areas, white cops used to police white areas, and that was kind of how it went. But those cops were from those neighborhoods. Once they started allowing more officers of the color, of different ethnicities and races to go into these other areas and be more exposed, somehow that law enforcement culture, the oppressive the oppressive culture of policing took over as the majority culture. That's what it morphed into.
This episode of CEO Live Talks is brought to you by Park National Bank. Pay with confidence. Your Park debit card is the fast, safe, smart way to pay this holiday season. Get more details online at parknationalbank.com.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
Communities in our name.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
You're always on time.
Because we serve the community.
My Park DuValle Community Health Center is right here.
Park DuValle Community Health Center, providing quality health care, one person, one family, one neighborhood at a time.
Maybe they're scared.
True, but if you're scared, you shouldn't be in that uniform.
And now you have a badge and you have power.
You were scared before you got that badge and that power.
Right. And now you're in the neighborhood that you're unfamiliar with. And now you bring your biases to the job.
Right.
So, rest in peace to Mr. Nichols.
Right.
We really do have to change the culture of policing in all communities. And, I remember years ago, I used to come from Fern Creek to the West End to coach, and I got stopped frequently. And so those days need to cease.
Right.
But let's move along to another subject of mine because, I'm a fan of the school system.
Okay.
And, in society, we have a lot of biases. So I love your hair.
Oh, thank you.
Right? So talk to me about the transition in working in the corporate world and the changing of the hair and how people perceive that, because there's a lot of stigmatism around that today too.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm very outspoken. So when I transitioned from straight relaxed hair to wearing my natural afro more, because I had a lot of hair and my afro was out there. So, and that was like my favorite thing to do, is wear my hair all the way out.
Right.
And
you was looking for that revolutionary Angela Davis type.
Angela Davis, yes. I had the big hair, honey. So that was absolutely what I wanted to do. I'm like, okay, so we're doing this now. And of course, when I worked in corporate America, it was like, you're wearing your hair out like that. Like, even my mom would be like, you gonna wear your hair? Absolutely. It grows out of my head this way, so I'm gonna wear it this way.
Anybody say anything crazy?
No, but you have individuals who take it upon themselves to get handsy. They want to touch your hair.
They want to touch your hair.
Yeah,
what is up with that?
Now, lady, if I smack your hand, you're gonna be upset with me.
Right.
But you didn't ask to touch my hair,
Right.
and if you did, I would tell you no, because I'm not a science experiment.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I just had that conversation with some friends of mine, and they said people wanted to come up and touch their hair, didn't believe it was real. But also, it was systematic racism into them not getting corporate jobs as well. So that's the other aspect. So you have a son that's in public school system, and he has the same type of hair.
He
so
does.
tell me, how's that working out for him? And has any teacher called to complain, or anybody said anything that they probably shouldn't have?
No. The only people that get on his nerves about his hair is his dad and his uncle, and because they are straight, even cut, just no frills, no fun haircuts. So they're probably the ones that talk about his hair the most. Honestly, he started growing his locks back in, I think he was in the 8th grade.
Okay.
He decided he wanted to lock, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go on the lock journey with you. So we both locked at the same time. We went through our lock journey together, and he really hasn't had any issues with it. But again, my son goes to Shawnee, so you're going to see a lot of kids walking around in there with locks. So he's amongst he's amongst his peers. He doesn't look different from anybody else. So he doesn't have that same problem. Whereas I've seen a lot of other schools where, the Crown Act, I believe, had to come into play for some of the kids in JCPS because, that's a distraction.
Right.
Actually, I take that back. When I was in elementary or middle school, I think my mom had finger waved my hair up. That was the style back then.
That
so
was
she
the style.
finger waved my hair. It was up, and it had a bun, and they told my mother my hair was a distraction.
Wow.
It was not a distraction to anyone
except
people who are not used to seeing it. So I want you to take that however you want.
They wanted you to assimilate to white society, what they believe a person's culture should be.
Right.
Right. So having a black male in JCPS, in the school system, how is he treated? How's he treated by the teachers? Because that's where I'm headed to.
So middle school was probably the roughest, the first 2 years of middle school. So his 6th and 7th grade were probably the roughest 2 years for how teachers perceived him. I'd get phone calls, Xavier is, he's being disrespectful. And I'm like, okay, well, what did he do? What happened? Explain to me what he did. He's just looking at us. Really, he's really angry. Okay, what did he say? He didn't say anything. We're talking to him and he's not responding. Okay, what was the situation that led to him not responding? Well, there were some other children in the classroom that were doing, this, that, and the third, and Xavier was laughing at them, and laughing at the situation, and we wanted him to, calm down. Or, okay, well, all right.
Explain that.
Explain to me why he's in trouble or why you think he's angry. He's more than likely just confused as to why you're singling him out for laughing. He's a child. Children are impulsive. They don't have, their frontal cortex isn't fully developed yet. Their prefrontal cortex, I don't know what else you want me to say, but kids handle things in a different way.
Right.
He's probably not used to an adult being that close to him and yelling or talking to him with a certain tone of voice. I try not to yell at my kids. So if you yelled at them, that's probably an issue right there.
Right.
So I don't think teachers, and again, it may be because he was a young black male that they assumed that he was being angry. I don't really know, but I know that those were some of the calls that we would get, or it was mostly those kinds of calls where they're just taking how he reacts to certain things out of context.
So the calls I used to receive, and I raised my sons, and I never received a call from any black teachers, but it was always somebody bringing their biases to the classroom on what my son should do or should act like. And so a couple of times I had to go up to the school just to address the teacher.
Right.
Because I said my kids are very intelligent, and they can speak for themselves, but you're not going to demoralize them in any way. And I remember one time my son came home. It was something strange with his arm. And DCF showed up at my house.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, why are you at my house? They said, well, a teacher called and said you abused your son, right? And I said, well, that's a mark on his arm. It looks like it's some type of infection. What do me beating him has to do with that? So anyway, I take my son to the doctor because I recognized it was a bite. And it was a brown recluse.
Oh, goodness,
So I had dealt with that working at the health department before. And so I ended up writing a long letter to the principal and that teacher. And I said, first of all, you should have probably looked me up and you would have known what I do for a living. And I go talk to kids, and just because I'm a father raising my kid, don't mean I'm going to automatically abuse my kid.
Right.
Maybe need to ask the question first.
Right.
Or do some more investigation. And I showed them what he had, and then it was like, I bad. But I had instances like that where I had to constantly go up to the school because they were being treated different.
I will say that there was a situation with my youngest son. He was in elementary, maybe 2nd or 3rd grade. So my youngest son was early identified as gifted and talented.
Mm-hmm.
He was on a 5th or 6th grade reading level when he was in the 1st grade. So he's very good with words. This may have been 2 years ago, actually. I can't exactly. No, it was a little longer than that. It was before COVID hit, so maybe 2018, 2019. Mm-hmm. And I got a phone call. Xavier called me a racist. What? What did he do? Well, come to find out, the teacher was separating the boys from the girls every time they went to the restroom, every time they went to the water fountain, every time they went to the lunchroom, and she would let the girls go first. So my son had enough, apparently, and he was like, "You're being a gender racist," because he didn't know the term sexist. So she called me and was like, "Oh, he called me a racist, and you really need to talk about that because somebody could really get mad and want to." Well, wait a minute, let's back up. Why didn't you use this as a teachable moment? Because that's what I would have done, and I would have said, "You're not a gender racist. Right. You're talking about sexist." Like, this was a teachable moment for everybody. Why are you calling me? You're the teacher. So after I had this long discussion with this lady and let her know that he was not. I don't know how you didn't figure out that he was trying to call you a sexist because it was right there. You were splitting the girls up from the boys and letting the girls go first for everything. Right. But I did have to have a long conversation with her and let her know he's very outspoken. He's very good with words. I know he's young, but he knew exactly what he was trying to say. He communicated it perfectly for his age. Right. I'm not going to tell him to stop calling out differences when he sees them. I'm not going to do that. He's not raised that way. He's raised to do exactly what he just did and let you know, like, hey, this is inappropriate. Like, what are you doing? Why do you continue to let them go and not let us go? So I did have to have that conversation with her, and I did let her know, like, this was a teachable moment, and I'll correct my child and let him know that the term he needs to use next time is a sexist. You're being sexist. And
you educated her. Did she respond and make change?
She never called me again about my son. Because she was like, that's no help.
There you go.
No, don't call his mama. And my kids are very aware of if there's something at school going on with you and a teacher and it seems too big for you, or you're at the point where you're so mad that you're about to say something that you have no business saying as a child, you need to call your mama. Because I don't mind coming up there and.
At Park DuValle, we offer a variety of services for behavioral health needs, such as therapy, medication management, case management, and we also have community health workers. Here at Park DuValle Community Health Center, in our behavioral health department, we provide you with the tools to help improve your life and your mental health. If you or someone you know is experiencing thoughts of suicide, please don't hesitate to give the Suicide Prevention Hotline a call. This could save your life or someone else's life.
That leads me to my last question. As a mom, and I know as a father, and a lot of people don't see a lot of fathers around, even though we are present in our kids' lives.
Definitely.
In today's society, do you have fear for your sons?
Every day. Every day I have fear for my sons. Specifically my oldest son. My youngest son, he's very reserved. He's quiet, even though I still have, that doesn't stop him from being target. But my oldest son, people look at my 16-year-old and they think he is, much older than what he is. He's about 6 foot, about 170 pounds, all muscle, just hit the 1,000 pound club in the weight room. So he's very strong. He does look older than what he is. So he's
pretty big. I've seen pictures.
People don't look at him and they automatically say, oh my gosh, that's a man. And I'm like, no, that's still my baby. That's a
Right.
child. That's still a child. I don't
Right.
care what he looks like. That's a child. Yes, he has his little chin hairs growing in. His little
Right.
mustache is
Right.
coming. It's about to start connecting. That's a baby. That's my baby. So
Right.
I have fears every day. He went with his friends the other day and went to play basketball, and I have my kids on Life 360 so I can see where they
Right,
are
right.
24/7, and I'm like constantly watching. I'm like, okay, he's still where
Mm-hmm.
he says he is, or like knowing the appropriate time to call and be like, okay, are you good? Like I want to
Right.
call every 5 minutes when he's not in my sight or in
Right.
his dad's sight or with my mom. I want to call every are you okay? When he went to PRP, there was guns in the building, like all the time. And every time I'd be like, I'm about to come and get you. He'd be like, nah, mom, I'm good. It's not around me. Like he was in honors classes. So typically those things happened. He was not in the area because those children were not in his classes. So he was separated from a lot of his friend group because he was in honors and AP classes at PRP. But he ultimately decided he didn't want to be at PRP. So I try to let them make their
Decisions.
own decisions. Specifically, he wanted to go to PRP. I let him go to PRP. When he said he had enough, he couldn't concentrate, he was uncomfortable in the building, I listened. When he said he wanted to go to Shawnee, regardless of what the reputation was for my alma mater, I listened. I sent him to Shawnee because that's where he felt comfortable. And so far, 7 A's and a B is what he brought back on his report
That's good.
card. So
That's good.
listening and making sure that I'm helping them equipping them with the tools to make the best decisions, because I know I can't be there to make all their decisions for them. It's hard. Like, I
It's
want to make
very
that
hard.
decision. Like, I want to be there and do that thing. Like, okay, let me protect, but I can't.
You can't protect it. And I'm a overprotective, overbearing dad.
You're a helicopter parent.
I'm probably a jet. Because I
Right.
just swoop in and be like, I want to saw this. And I think I never want that call. First of all, it's a shame that I have to worry about the crime in my community. But
Right.
then I got to worry about the crime in school.
Right.
And then I got to worry about how the community and people perceive my son versus my daughter.
Right.
And in most cases, there's not much I could do.
Yep.
But if I want to change one thing in society, it would be to change the demonizing of our African American men and our boys growing up, and how they treated in the school system, how they treated by greater society. Because if we don't change that aspect, then we won't see us in higher education.
Right.
We won't see us having jobs in the community. We won't see the contributions that we can make to society.
Right.
So, I would say that's my last point, and I'm with you, and I support your sons and be around as much as I need to be.
Right.
And thank you for everybody tuning in to the show. Hopefully this was a great conversation for you today. Have a great weekend.